All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about a festival that makes a pretty bold claim.
Yeah, you heard that right. The Kandy Esala Perahera in Sri Lanka. It's considered the most historical cultural procession in the entire world. So you gotta ask, how does it earn a title like that? Well, to figure it out, we're gonna do things a little differently. We're gonna start at the finish line.
Okay, so the grand finale of this whole festival is something called the Maha Randoli Perahera. This isn't just the end, it's the absolute peak. It's an explosion for the senses, just packed with tradition and pageantry. And this quote, it barely scratches the surface. I want you to just try and picture this. Massive elephants, these majestic tuskers, decked out in these incredible gold-stitched costumes. And then you have hundreds of drummers, all in their full ceremonial outfits, and the sound of their drumming just fills the air. It's the final, most spectacular part of the whole thing. Just wow, breathtaking.
So when you see something that incredible, you can't help but wonder, right? Like, where did all of this even begin? How does a tradition this huge, this detailed, stick around for centuries? To get those answers, well, we've got to go back. Way back. So let's do that. Let's trace the big moments that turn this from just an idea into the massive spectacle it is today. Okay, so this timeline really lays out the whole journey. It all kind of starts with the idea of a perahera, or pageant, becoming a big deal in India way back during Emperor Ashoka's time. Then you jump forward to the 1300s, and this is key. A book is written that literally codifies all the rules for the procession. Fast forward again to the 1700s, and a king makes a game-changing decision. He makes it public, for everyone to see. And then finally, in 1815, the care of the sacred relic gets passed to the Buddhist clergy, which is pretty much why it's still around today.
All right, so I mentioned that rule book from the 1300s. Let's dig into that a little more because this thing is basically the ancient blueprint. It's the document that still dictates how this whole thing is run, even now, more than 700 years later. It's incredible.
It's called the Dalada Saritha, and you can seriously think of it as the official instruction manual. It's got 38 specific rules, statutes, that lay out exactly how the ceremony for the sacred tooth relic should go down. So this tradition isn't just, some story passed down generation to generation. It's written down, it's codified.
And we're talking super detailed rules here. The Dalada Saritha says the shrine room has to be cleaned at a very specific, auspicious hour. It has to be decorated just so with silks and canopies. Everybody, the king, his ministers, the general public, they all have to make offerings of rice and flowers. Even how the sacred casket is moved is spelled out, only by chief priests, and with the absolute greatest respect.
And that brings us to this really pivotal moment in the 1700s, with a king named Kirti Sri Rajasingha. Before him, the sacred tooth relic was basically the king's private property. The public never got to see it. But then this king issues a decree that changes everything. He says, take it out in a procession for everyone to see and venerate. And boom, that one decision is what turned this from a private royal ceremony into the huge public festival we know today.
Okay, so now that we've got the backstory, let's unpack what the festival actually looks like today. Because it's not just one parade, It's actually a whole series of really symbolic events.
So the whole thing kicks off with a ritual called Kap Situvima. What happens is they take a young, sanctified jackfruit tree, cut it, and then planted it 4 different shrines, which are called Devales. Each one is dedicated to a guardian god. And this whole act is symbolic, right? It's the official start of the festival, and it's all about asking for blessings for the ruler and for the people.
After that, the street processions start, and they happen in 2 main stages. First, you've got the Kumbo Perahera. You could think of this as like a preview procession. It's a bit quieter, not as many officials, not the full-on costumes. But then comes the Randoli Perahera, and that's the main event. This is the full-blown, magnificent procession.
And get this, the main Randoli Perahera isn't just over in one night. Nope, it takes over the streets for 5 nights in a row, and that number, 5, is a big deal. It represents this long, sustained period of reverence and worship. It also means that tons of people, tens of thousands, can come from all over to see it and be a part of it.
Okay, here is a super interesting detail that's a direct link to its royal history. So, back when there were kings, the chief queens used to ride in the procession in these carriages called palanquins. At some point, people decided, maybe that's not quite right for a sacred procession. So the queens stopped participating. But And this is the cool part. As a nod to that tradition, they still carry an empty palanquin in the procession. It's like this living echo of the festival's royal past. So, when you put it all together, the deep history, the rulebook that's over 700 years old, and this incredible, vibrant spectacle, you start to realize the Perahera is so much more than just a festival. It's really a living, breathing legacy.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the value of the Perahera is just huge. For one, it's this amazing showcase of Sinhala culture. It also does this beautiful job of weaving together Buddhist and Hindu customs. And think about it, it's one of the few places in the world where people are performing rites exactly as they were written down over 700 years ago. It's a powerful, unbroken connection between the people and their most sacred traditions.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. When a tradition like this one lasts for so long, when it follows rules written down centuries ago, does it stop being just a procession? Does it become something more? Maybe it becomes the actual blueprint for a culture's identity. Definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.